Welcome to Whole Team Eats Podcast, a 24/8 media production. Ever wonder who trains your favorite athlete? Join Tim Miller as he takes a look at the behind-the-scenes training of professional and collegiate athletes. Tim connects with trainers, athletes, and others in the sports community to share their stories. This podcast is dedicated to highlighting the work of athletes and trainers to inspire action and build community.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to an all-new episode of Whole Team Eats Podcast. This is Season 2, Episode 1. I'm your host, Tim Miller, and on this show, I sit down with Anthony Tumbarello of CTP. Anthony grew up surrounded by sports and found his passion for training in 8th grade. Anthony got an opportunity to play football at Iona College, but after one season, the program folded and he was forced to change course. Anthony used this as an opportunity to not only train for the UFL, but also learn as much as possible about training. On the show, we discuss Anthony's journey of how he became the trainer that he is today. After working at an LA Fitness and going in and out of the industry, Anthony leaned on mentors to learn and eventually give him the opportunity to train athletes. Today, Anthony trains several collegiate and professional athletes and even had Eagles quarterback Gardner Minshew live out of his gym for an entire offseason. It's my pleasure to introduce Anthony Tumbarello of CTP Performance. Anthony, welcome to the show.
How you doing? Great to be here. Happy to be here.
So, natural start for most of my episodes is just to talk a little bit about, and now we're towards the end of the year here in 2022, but how has training been? I know you do a lot of combine stuff, so that's earlier in the year. Could you kind of just talk about how training was for, in 2022?
It started off with a bang for us. We had a great combine class. I had 3 guys here. Those guys did phenomenal. We really were able to hone in on a lot of different things with those guys. We took an individualist approach to our training like we normally do. Each guy had an individual program. We set goals for each other. They set goals for their pro day and everything that they had going on, and they crushed it. So one of our linebackers, was able to run a 4.5 40. He was projected in the high 4.6s. We had a wide receiver run a 4.38 to 4.44 at his pro day. Ended up getting signed with the Jaguars. Unfortunately had a nasty injury, but other than that, was going to make the 53. It looked like. From there, we went right into our NFL offseason. Combines real January to March. And then our NFL guys rolled in March. We had Gardner Minshew, Matt Milano. Had Jake Burt, who's a CFL guy, Michael Walker, a CFL guy. We had a bunch of guys roll through, Garrett McGinn, Will Harris, Ike, Connor. We had a bunch of different guys come through here, and it was a really fun offseason. That ended at around April 15th. They went back to OTAs. Kind of from there, I just do normal personal training, or I train a lot of high school athletes. Kind of just got into that, as far as until about July. And then I have that 4-week window for our NFL offseason, and that's where we really get them ready for camp, and that's really where the strides are made for us, and making sure they're healthy going into camp, they're performing at the highest level, where our injuries are all gone and everything, nothing's going on. So it was great. All of our guys so far, the 2 guys that we had going into the NFL offseason, Matt Milano's having a killer year, all-pro year, in my opinion, Pro Bowl year, probably the best year he's ever had. And, Gardner Minshew's waiting for his opportunity. I know he's going to be a free agent next year. When he's ready to take that next step, we'll be ready with him. So, and then from there, we just kind of prepare, again, training high school athletes from that August period until now with our personal training clients. And here comes this train again. Combine's rolling in. We'll be rolling about January 2nd. So we're about a month away. And I'm excited. I think we're going to have 5-6 guys here and roll it all through again.
Yeah, I think when you talk about Matt Milano especially, he's been somebody who's been with you for some time now. And I think the entire country got a great glimpse of him on Thanksgiving just recently. He's had a hell of a year, and it's nice that he gets some national attention, and really everybody starts to appreciate him as a player, even though he flies under the radar. Although he shouldn't, he, for whatever reason, seems like he flies under the radar a little bit. And we see CTP established in 2020 on your shirt. Obviously, COVID brought different things and hardships and opportunities for a lot of people. But this was year 2 for CTP, the whole combine off season.
Yep, this is our official year 2. I've been doing it since 2016. But this was the first official one on my own that we've had in 2020, 2021, 2022, and then we're going to roll in. 2021, 22, and now we're going to roll into 23. This will be our third combine coming up.
Wow. It's, I'm sure for you, it feels like it's kind of happened overnight, but, we see the players that you've kind of put out and you're just starting to ramp up your facility more and more each year. So, we're going to dive into that a little bit later in the show. Obviously, COVID brought hardships and opportunities for different people. For you, it kind of led you down a different path, which I'm sure you were hoping to get to at some point, regardless of whether it was then or a little bit later in your career. But I kind of want to start with your background, just so people can, they see Matt Milano on Thanksgiving Day, and I think it's good to understand who's training them, who's spending all this time in the off season to get them to where they are on the field and playing at such a high level. But just starting with your background, like where'd you grow up? How did you figure out that you like training? Did you play sports? Everything.
Definitely.
Like that.
So I was born in Staten Island, New York. I lived there for 5 years. Then I lived in Jersey, Manalapan, Freehold area. My family decided that we were going to make a move to Southwest Florida in 2011. I was 12. Moved down here. I'm in Naples, Florida. Was down here. Went to high school down here. Played football, track, baseball in high school. I was an all-state in football, all area for baseball and track. Went to the States for track for the 100 and 200 meter dash. That's kind of really where I loved training. Where it started was, 8th grade, 9th grade. I actually started by watching Ronnie Coleman and Arnold Schwarzenegger videos, and everyone in our locker room was just all about getting big, and it wasn't even about speed stuff at that point. It was more of let's just get big. So, it was fun to be around. We're 15 years old, taking pre-workouts, just trying to get as big as possible. Then realizing that in high school, right, you also need to have speed training with that. So then I outsourced, where can I go? So I went to a place called Velocity, and that's kind of where I started learning speed training myself, just doing it as an athlete. I did that for 2 years, for junior year, senior year. Ended up getting a football scholarship at Iona College, and trained for that as well. When things didn't work out at Iona College, they folded the football program after a year. Came back down here, went right back to training. I never stopped. And so from there, I kind of now learned how to do combine stuff because I was getting ready to do a combine for the UFL. I was invited to one. So I started training that way and kind of just had a different approach on how things worked and how the body worked and movement and everything like that. And I had a really good coach at the time to get me through all that. Was able to go there, ran a 4.440, was able to do everything that I needed to do. Injuries stopped me from playing. I blew out my shoulder a bunch of times, bunch of concussions, just decided that was it. I was in a sling, came back down here, really didn't know what to do. This is 2011 now. And then my dad's like, look, you got to go do something. So I started working at LA Fitness. I started working the front desk, being in the gym. I only knew the gym. only knew the gym really my whole life. And so I started there. One day all the trainers walked out, said, hey, would you want to start personal training? I was like, you know what you're doing. Got my certification, started training, and trained at LA Fitness for about 4 or 5 years. Enjoyed it. I think it was a good stepping stone for me because I got to learn how to just communicate to clients, just getting that personality down. It's very personable what we do. You really get into people's lives. So I think that was a good opportunity there. But deep down, I always knew I wanted to train athletes. I really didn't know how. I started looking online how to do it. And I kind of just came to the conclusion, I need to find a mentor and somebody to teach me and mold me. So the guy that actually ended up training me, I ended up, I had some clients that I brought over from LA Fitness, and I was like, hey, can I just intern under you? Can I just be here? I have clients here. I'll pay you a percentage to almost be a contractor here. So I'll still train my clients, but in my downtime, I want you to teach me how to do this. And we agreed to do that, and we did that for 2 years. That was a Total Athletic Performance. Got to be around 2 combine classes there. This is 2016 now. Got to be around 2 combine, classes, couple off seasons. And then the Hurricane Irma happened, 2017. My ex-fiance at the time had an uncle that lived in Tampa. We went to Tampa. She trained under Yo Murphy. We ended up going and meeting him at ASPI at the time. And so I was kind of like, look, I was at this point looking to expand anyway. Naples was a really small market for this. And I felt like I learned everything I could, at that facility at TAP. And then I was like, okay, I want to take it to the next level. I see what these guys are doing. They got, all these NFL guys coming in. Like, I really want to be around this. So we negotiated I would come on as a trainer, and January 2nd rolled around and we had 51 combine athletes, and I'm a coach now. I'm giving my input of what I've learned and put stuff together, and we're rolling. We had 51 combine athletes. We had about 15 MLB pros that were there that I got to assist with those. And then, we had about 15 to 25 NFL vets that came in the summer of that. So I was able to be a part of all that and be in talks with all the, programming and just the relationships that I met, that I had there. Get to learn under Yo Murphy. I get to learn under a guy named Vinny Scolo. I get to learn under a guy named Clint Strickler. Tim Grover's there training Jameis Winston at the time. I'm like a sponge to that and just kind of watching that. And I get to be around all of this all day. So I literally lived in that gym all day. I was, I would run the 5:30 a.m. classes. So I'd be there from 5:30, and then I would even take it all the way to the middle school at night, about 8 o'clock at night. And I kind of just, that whole year, just engulfed myself in training. After that, some things didn't work out at ASPI. I decided the best thing for me to do was to, at the time, just take a little marketing internship. I took a break from training for 3 months, kind of learned marketing, just kind of needed to clear my head of situations that was going on, that I was going through in my life. And I kind of learned how to market myself, which I think is a huge proportion for any trainer and any business that you're in. And so after that, I kind of learned that for 3 months, got to a point where, I was dead broke. And I was like, all right, I got to move back to Naples. So I moved back to Naples. I still have the picture, $65 in my pocket. Drove back down, immediately had to sell my car, couldn't pay for it anymore. Talked to the guy, Derek at TAP, that I was working with before at Total Athletic Performance, asked him if I can get a start again. He said yes, kind of took what I learned from the marketing. I molded myself into such a great trainer at that point that I felt like I knew my programming was on point. I knew everything was on point. Still had so much to learn, as I do still now. But where I was at from where I left was a huge jump. So I was just able to go in there and, assist in everything they were doing, program and everything we were doing. 2009, that's around 2019. We have a combine class. I get to assist with all that, and I'm actually coaching it now. Instead of me just standing there, jotting stuff down and doing that, now I'm actually coaching, and I'm actually like assisting him and helping him with certain guys and kind of getting the mental that I learned and kind of just learn bits and pieces from other trainers, good things that I took and little cues and stuff, and was able to help them. And then come the summer of 2019, the director decided he was going to go on vacation for a month, the month of NFL offseason. So I got slapped down with nine NFL vets coming down, getting ready to go. One of them just happened to be Gardner Minshew. Kind of built that relationship from there. He kind of trusted me that year. I trusted him. We worked together the whole time. And then it just kind of steamrolled from there. As we were getting ready for 2020 combine class, COVID happens, right? The gym decides to shut down. They was rented at the time by someone else, and they decided to shut it down. So at that point, I was blessed to have a 250 square foot garage in my condo apartment. And I'm training all my NFL guys in a condo. I started actually gaining clients, like a lot of college guys that were down that weren't working out saw, because I was publicly like putting all this out there. Like, I was in Florida. We had no restrictions. Like, don't go out. Okay, well, that doesn't mean we can't work out. So, and everyone was coming to my condo. Like, it's not like everything was like, we weren't outside or doing anything like that. So everyone was coming to my condo. We were training there in this little 250 square foot hot box. And I started getting guys, I ended up getting Willie Johnson, who I trained in the combine this year with the Jags. We had a bunch of great guys that we were able to have, and guys that I'm still going to continue to train, and I still continue to train. We all called it the dungeon, and we just got after it. And I saw that I was actually gaining personal training clients from it. So around May 2020, I looked at everything going on, and thankfully, from my hardships that I learned in 2018 and 19. I saved all my money. I banked all my money. I marketed the right way. I was able to make a killing while I was here, just by marketing and doing different things that I was learning. And also, too, putting in great work. I was putting in great work with our clients, great work with our athletes. I was able to build and put enough money aside that I was able to open up my own gym without any funding or anything. Signed it in May 5th of 2020, and we've been rocking and rolling ever since. So
It's quite the journey that you've been
Yeah,
on since day one. That
yeah.
goes without being said. I mean, a couple of things. There's a lot to kind of break down in that
Oh
whole
yeah,
story of
yeah,
how you got to where where you started and where you grew up to where you are today. Um, I did want to say, I think every kid, or most kids who play sports, did go through a 15-year-old Ronnie Coleman, Arnold
Oh yeah,
Schwarzenegger pre workout phase. Everybody went through that in some capacity if you're in
yeah.
sports when you're growing up. So I found that
It's all about
interesting.
getting
That
big, how much protein you could take in. Just to like, okay, can I get my bench to 315? Can I get my squat to 500? Can I get my deadlift over 500? Like, can I break the 1,000-pound club? And I'm 15, 16 years old, like trying to do
yeah,
this. Like, that's not realistic. Pump the brakes, but you
yeah.
know,
Every kid was doing it though, myself
yeah,
included. I was never going to get there as a skinny wide receiver, but
yeah,
we
no way.
we all wanted to do it. Um, But I want to touch to Iona College football. How was that, and how hard was it for you to go to a school, commit to playing a sport, and then have that program kind of go under?
Yeah, I mean, at the time too, I was an undersized guy. They were really the only ones that really offered me a scholarship. I had a bunch of walk-ons, in the state of Florida that I could have went to. I had a couple other D2 schools offer me as well. They were 1AA. I was from New York. They're in New Rochelle, New York. They're about 20 minutes from the city. All my family's there. I was like, you know what? This is going to be a good situation. So I was actually really excited going in. They actually did have a lot of guys that would make rookie mini camps every year too. So I was like, okay, they had a running back that just got signed by the Bills at that time. So I'm like, they're my goal was NFL. Like I think every college player when you're signing a full ride, like okay, yeah, I think this is what I want to do. And so I just thought it was a great situation. When I got there, I could tell things were off from the jump. What they sold us, that they were building this new field, which they were, that they were building this new facility and everything like that. And you could see all the pictures and everything when you walk in. But then when you're in the building and you hear chatter and this, that, and the other. This is the last year. They're an independent 1AA without funding. We're in the middle of 2008. We're in the middle of a recession. And then you go the first two games and no one's going to your games. We kind of felt like something was off. We had a really bad year. I mean, we had 8 seniors go down within the first 2 weeks. I mean, we had a starting freshman quarterback. I started at receiver and running back, as a true freshman. We had safeties starting. We were all across the board, young team, a lot of true freshmen starting. I think we ended up winning 4 games that year. I mean, at one point I had to play quarterback. Let's that into perspective of 5'6", running back playing quarterback for a game versus Marist College. And then after the year, we kind of knew right as that Thanksgiving break hit, they were going to fold the program. As soon as they said that, I was out of there. So I packed up all my stuff, left, because I was going to continue and finish the year, at least to finish with school, but they were going to pull all our scholarships anyway. So I was like, you know what, I'm out, and came back down here and started training again. It was tough, man, because I really enjoyed being there. I really did like the atmosphere there. I loved going to the basketball games too, and just it was a smaller school, which I liked. It wasn't a crazy big school, so everyone knew each other, especially everyone that played sports. But that's life, man. It happens. Nothing that I could do. It was out of my control at that point, and as much as it sucked, and I wish I could have been there for 4 years and graduated and played college football and continued to play after that. My story and my journey wasn't meant to go that way. So.
And it must be tough for anybody that age, right? So you've worked your entire life to get to that point, and you're excited to go to college, and it's unfortunate that something happens, and lucky for you is it didn't deter you from staying the course of what you ultimately were passionate for, which is training. So
Right.
it was it's good that even though that didn't work out for your favor, it wasn't like okay, I'm going to go completely do something else. You still had a love for training, you still had a love for working out, and obviously maybe
Yeah, and
it
that
was
too. I think everything happens for a reason, right? Like I look at it
exactly.
now, and in the time you don't think of it. You're like you're down and you're crushed, and you're like, damn, like this really just happened. But now that I look back on it, like if those things don't happen, maybe I'm not where I'm at right now, right? Maybe I'm not training. Maybe I'm not still shooting to get into the NFL. I may not be able to get into the NFL as a player, but I damn well will get one in as a strength and conditioning coach now. And that's kind of been my goal and the strive, down the road once I'm done, owning the gym and stuff like that, and I'm ready to, branch off in that. But I think it just gave me even more motivation. Like I think we learn from mistakes and hardships that we have, and I think as long as we continue to keep growing from them and keep, like you said, keep pushing forward, that's really where the difference happens.
Absolutely. And something else you touched on, kind of in your background story, was, communication. Like the way that you communicate with athletes is crucial.
Oh
And,
yeah.
it's something that we've been hearing from a lot of the trainers that come on our show is nowadays, especially with social media and, the way you market yourself, but really everything is predicated off of communication with athletes. Athletes trust you when you communicate to them. How you communicate is super important because the athletes need to be able to grasp those concepts and apply them when they're under your supervision for part of the year training, but there's going to be time where they're not under your supervision. So being able to clearly communicate and articulate those different movements and different programs. Could you talk about the communication piece? Does that come natural for you, or is that something you've worked
I
at a
think
lot?
it's building relationships, man. I think it starts in just building a relationship. You get to know a guy. I'm a big believer in asking these guys, like, why do you play football? Why do you want to be the best? Why do you want to play in the NFL? Why do you want to do all this? And you get to kind of know, like, about the person, right? Like, okay, why is he playing? What's his motivation? And just from that aspect of things. And then it's just building a relationship as far as like, hey, this is the training that I do. This is the services I provide. These are my philosophies. This is why I do what I do. And everything that I tell them to do, I give them the why. Like, this is why we're doing it. We're doing it for this, 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 and this. And you start to build trust. And, I can't say that, I've trained Gardner for 4 years. I've trained Matt for 2 years, right? I've trained other guys, Mike Walker for 4 years, Will Harris for 3. In the first year, it's just getting to know some guy. Like, they're still figuring out if they trust you. You're still figuring out how they tick. You're still figuring out how they work. And that's constant communication, right? And at the end of the day, all the communication and everything is great, but your program have to prove results, right? So once they start seeing the results and they know, like, okay, like, this is how my body felt going into OTAs. This is how my body felt going into the training camp. They felt this way because we trained this way. Okay, I trust this guy. This guy has my best interest. This guy's not doing it just for, and look, there's great trainers. There's good trainers. There's trainers that really don't know as much. Social media has kind of just put all trainers out there on a skate and just kind of just let everybody run loose. There are guys that just do it for themselves and it's more personal for them. For me, it's my guys, and they know that. Like, I'll ride or die for my guys. If you train with me and you trust me, I'm going to do everything I can in my power. It's not about me. It's about them. And I still help them even now. Like, I check in on them every week. How you feeling? How you doing? How's this? How's the body? How's this? How's that? Right? Like, it's still, with Gardner, I'm still assisting him in some of the stuff that he's still doing, right? And I get to have that open communication still, and there's still that trust. And, then you get to trust in the team, and the team kind of trusts in you a little bit, and you kind of still are able to communicate and work together. But I think it's just building that relationship from the jump as like, hey, like, it's not about me, it's about you. Let's build that relationship together. These are the things I want you to do. These are the whys I want you to do them. And then let the results speak for themselves. And then once they kind of see the results, then they come back, and then they come back, and then they come back. And then we keep elevating, we keep elevating, we keep elevating every year, right? And, as those guys set goals for themselves, I set goals for myself. Where do I want to be as a trainer? How many new skills am I learning? What am I doing to get Gardner Minshew to the next level? What am I doing to get Matt Milano to the next level? The program that we had last year was great. How can we make it better? And those guys know, like, I'm committed to that. Like, that is the commitment. It's just a commitment to excellence that every year we're getting 1% better, 10% better, 20% better. And we just continue to keep climbing, for as long as these guys play.
Yeah, and I think not only just in training, I think it's crucial in training, but in any line of work, right? To keep people, going towards the same goal, or to keep them motivated. Understanding the why behind something is extremely important. And for players, right, they want to know, why am I doing this? What's the end goal? How does this make me even 1% better every single day? Obviously, they're going to feel the difference when they're playing their sport or going through mini camp or whatever it is, training camp.
And the numbers don't lie, right? So, like,
Exactly.
Gardner Minshew, like, we could see him. He was in like that 16.9, 17 mile an hour range, and he hit 18.3 this year. And every year I've been able to see, we've been gradually been able to get better as far as what top end speed is for him. And just so what we're doing is working, right? His power is the highest. We get readouts on all of him once a month. I see exactly what's going on, where we're improving, and we can just keep elevating, right? And just keep pushing the nod. But I think the biggest thing is, like, in the relationship is they know, like, I have their backs no matter what. This ain't about me. This is about them, and this is about where they're going in their careers. right? And I'm just a small portion of their overall success.
Yeah. And something we here at 24/8 we try to do is, you might say, yourself, you're a small part of their success, but in reality, when we're talking about the difference of how many hours and weeks they spend on the field playing their respective sport and how many hours they spend training with you, it's a disproportionate amount of time. So really, you should have more emphasis on what you do, and you should be getting more credit than you really do deserve. And this goes for all trainers, because you spend so much time with these players, getting their trust, making them kind of stay at that high level for the entire season. And obviously, you're going above and beyond where you're communicating with these players in season as well. So you're following up and saying, how you feeling this week? Here's something we can do. Here, this and that. So you're kind of going above and beyond. And I think your players, it really shows in the growth of your gym, right? The players appreciate everything that you're doing on your end.
And what's crazy too is like, I don't feel like I'm going above and beyond. I don't. I just feel like I'm just taking care of my guys. And that's, I think, what it comes down to at the end of the day. Like, am I doing the best job that I could possibly do to take care of my guys and make sure that they have all the tools to be successful that they need as far as fitness and training goes?
Yeah, and then that could just come down to, you really being passionate about what you do. Is you don't feel like you're going above and beyond. They might think that, but it's because, you
this ain't work to
truly.
me, man. This isn't work to me. Working at LA Fitness, that was work. This, man, I wake up when it's combine season and those long hours and those long days, and we're going 6 days a week for 8 weeks, 9 weeks. Dude, I love it, man. Like, that's my element. That's my zone. And then right from there we go straight into the NFL guys, and like I get juiced. Like when those guys walk in, they know we're about to put in work and how excited I am for what this year is going to hold, like as far as the offseason goes and where we're going to go and how we're going to get there. And I love it, man. It's like an absolute love for me. There's nothing else that I would rather be doing.
And I think the players, they feel that from you, and they feed off your energy, right? So part of what
they know this is my life. They know this is my life. They know I eat, sleep, and breathe all this. So,
and besides just the communication piece, like the motivation piece of it, and you being that, there's going to be guys who come in who have a bad day or a little bit tired or a little bit banged up, and you to be that source of energy, that source of, refreshing, different voice outside of their daily routine, where they're saying, okay, I'm here with Anthony today. I'm training. I need to clear my mind and make sure that I'm motivated for what we're doing and the task at hand. Yeah. Something that we didn't talk about before the show and kind of popped into my head when you're talking about Gardner Minshew specifically and his training. I'm obviously based out of Philadelphia here, so big Eagles fan. I see you wearing the Eagles hat. But I did read an article, or I saw something, maybe it was on ESPN, about he's a little unorthodox. We know that, and some of the things he does with training, and he's a big media personality. But I saw something about him training outside of a facility, or basically almost living at the facility for a period of time. Was that outside of your facility, and was that with you?
Yeah, that was probably one of the coolest experiences that I've ever had as far as training someone. He told me he was going to do it. And he asked me if I would be okay with him pulling in the back of our gym, and I said absolutely. And it was honestly, it was such a great experience. To have a guy be that dedicated to the work, you say you live it, you sleep it, this, that, and the other. I mean, he actually did it. Like he ate, slept. He was at the gym 24/7. I mean, there were times where I would roll by that gym on a Saturday night or Sunday, and he's stretching in there. Lights off, neon lights on, deep stretching, foam roll, like just talking about just embodying the whole philosophy of training and what we were trying to do that year. And I think it's something that he always wanted to do with the bus. But to say, like, for me, I don't know too many trainers across the country that say that their athlete pulled up to the back of the gym, said, hey, I'm going to eat, sleep, and train here 24/7, and I'm going to live in this place, like literally live in this place, and do that at that high of a level of an athlete that he is. I mean, that's probably one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. And it was a dope bus. I got to give it to him. Like, when he first got there, it was a little rough. But he ended up, like, making it all and putting his little swag to it. And it was definitely a cool spot. We hung out in there a couple times. It was a good vibe, man, for sure.
So he lived in the bus behind the gym, or he lived in the gym itself?
No, he lived in the bus behind the gym. So he slept. Like, there was a bed in there. He had a couch in there. So he slept in the gym. But the bathroom and everything, the shower, everything was inside the gym. He had a key to just open the back door and just go, come and go as he pleases.
To go from LA Fitness to having Gardner Minshew, NFL quarterback, living out of your gym.
Yeah.
That is quite the journey that you've come in such a short period of time,
Yeah.
and it's really just hats off to you and what you've been able to accomplish
And I
from a
mean, to be
training
honest
perspective.
too, like I do feel like I do pride myself on being one of the hardest workers in the room. I do work my ass off, but I've also had a lot of great trainers and a lot of great mentors behind me, that have shown me the way of how to train. Derek Touchette at Total Athletic Performance, Yo Murphy at the time ASPI, now House of Athlete. Like I said, Vinny Skolos, Clint Strickler, Tim Grover, guys that I still talk to today. Me and Vinny still stay in communication today as far as like combine and training goes, and how he would do this, and I'm always still learning from those guys as much as I can. And I think too, going through some hardships, like I've gone through hardships at times. Like I said, I've been broke. I've had money, I've had this, I've had that, I've had other things that have happened in my life that you kind of learn from your mistakes. And then you just kind of grow from them. And I think it's all just truly a blessing to be where I'm at now, and especially too, like where we're going to be going in the next few years here at CTP.
Yeah, and also kind of in the story of your background, you talked a lot about mentors and what they meant to you. Obviously, it
Yeah.
seems like they played a crucial role in where you are today. But
Well, without them, I'm
just
not here. Without them, I'm not here, and I'll be the first to admit it to everybody in the world. Without them, I'm not here. Without learning from guys that have been there and show you the ropes and the good and the bad. You learn good and bad from everybody, right? You learn what not to do, or something that doesn't fit what you believe in. You don't do that, but if you take one or two things from everybody and you kind of put it together, and then you kind of blend your program, and then you have that hard work behind it, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and you mentioned you've compared yourself to just being that sponge and kind of taking in everything you could and working those long hours, and really being able to absorb all of that different information at the time and kind of mold whatever you thought was the right fit for your training style into what CTP is today. But you also mentioned just gaining that exposure. So through those different combine programs you had at ASPI and other gyms that you were in the past, having that exposure to all those athletes and seeing how trainers communicated with professional, collegiate, and high-end high school athletes really gave you a good roadmap for how to
Absolutely.
communicate with them.
Absolutely. And I think too, one of the best thing that those guys did is they all threw me to the wolves. Like, hey, this is what you're going to do. You're going to run this today. Here's the program. Go. Like, don't ask questions. Don't do anything. Think on the fly. Think like this. If anything needs to change it. If a guy's injured or a guy doesn't do something, you got to change it. What would you do? Why? And just, you got to do things like this. And I think being just exposed to that, and that's what I do with my trainers. Like, they'll come in and they won't even know that in my head, I already know, like, okay, Coach Shane is going to train this guy today, and I won't even tell him. And I'm like, okay, man, here, you're going to train this guy today. I want you to put him through a warm-up. It's acceleration. It's a lower body lift. Go. And he'll look at me like, wait, what? Just go. Just do it. What would you do? Why would you do it? I watch you, and then we'll talk about it after. And that's kind of how you learn. And I've been very grateful that that's what the guys did to me. It's like, hey, this is the program. They'd write it down. Here you go. Run it. And would turn the shoulder, and that's it. So, and then you're communicating with guys. And at the time, our combine class that we had too at ASPI that first year was incredible. We had Darius Leonard, we had Jesse Bates. I mean, we had Chris Herndon. We had guys that are all playing and are all pros. And I mean, we had a ton of guys. We got Lyndon Stevens, who's still playing now, and I still stay in communication with him. And when you're around, those great athletes and you get to see all that stuff, and then you get to be around, and then, Randy Moss is there coaching the wide receivers, and I just get to be there in a system, throw them a couple footballs here and there, right? Like, you just take it all in, man. You just learn. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible just to hear some of the names that you were exposed to and learning from.
And that's where like I say, like, I'm not where I'm at right now without those experiences, without the pluses in there and without the failures.
Yeah, and it seemed like there was a lot of failure in your story, but like how obviously it doesn't come natural just to run a program the first time you ever given it, but how long did it take to get used to that style of kind of teaching you the ropes, so to speak?
A few years, for sure. I think 2016 I was learning it, programming on my own, terrible. 2017 I started getting a little bit better. 2018, I was thrown to the wolves, and I kind of followed someone's program as why they were doing it, and then I would ask questions, and then, what I think was good is, like, Clint Strickler, the guy that I was with, was running baseball, and I got to experience that. Well, now I'm able to train pro baseball players because I understand what we're doing. And then, I would always talk with Vinny even after that. Hey, I put this program together. What do you think? And they would look at me and go, okay, you're getting a little bit better here. This is what I would change. This is what I would do. This is why. And then they'd ask me, why did you choose this? Why did you stack these two? What are you trying to accomplish here? What's the goal? What's the end goal? How are you And that's just how, and it took years to do. And I still feel like, every year, and I can even go back to all Gardner's first program to now, like, we've made such strides every year of just how we're getting better and how we're managing it. And now we know, okay, he's getting older, so we can't do the things we did 4 years ago. We got to stay on top of this. And now we need more mobility stuff. Now we need more of this. We need more of this. And so you kind of just learn. You just keep elevating. And you just, like right now, I feel like I'm not even close to the trainer that I can become and I will become down the road.
Let me into my next point is you keep saying we are getting better. It's not just he's getting better, right? He's not, but you as a trainer are simultaneously learning and adapting and getting better with the athletes that you train. And I think part of your duty as a trainer is to continuously learn new things and get better as a trainer, because the more that you know, the better that you can train different athletes. I did have one question to ask you. You talk about you're able to kind of absorb MLB training as well.
Yep.
I know you train NFL, MLB, maybe some other sports as well, but is there one sport that's more difficult than another, or they all kind of just, here's how to train an athlete in general and then the same principles?
They're all different. Every single sport I feel like is different across the board. Training a baseball player and training a football player is two totally different paths. Like, it's literally this way. So you gotta kind of adapt to your training as far as that goes, and you got to really understand, how a baseball player moves, where their positions are, all that rotational work that they need to put in, all that extra arm care work that, a quarterback that we do. But again, a quarterback and a pitcher, there are a lot of guys that say they're similar. They're very different. Right. So it's a similar plane, but it's different. So there's like, you got to understand certain things and certain guys, and you got to understand the body, and you got to understand the movements, and you got to understand, okay, what is a baseball player's goals and priorities and what they need to do and how they need to do it and how the body adapts and moves to their rotational and creating rotational power. Whereas a football player, mostly everything is, lateral, change of direction, where they're not really doing a lot of that in baseball. There's not really a lot of change of direction in baseball as much as there is in football. So you got to just change everything, and it's learning human anatomy of how the body moves in different positions and why, and then you kind of program and go that way. I don't think there's any two sports that are the same, and I definitely think you shouldn't train them the same. Like, I won't train a baseball player the same way I train a football player. Like,
Yeah.
no way. I won't do that.
Makes complete sense. And kind of going back to where you started and how you came for where CTP is and established 2 years ago. But what was it and how difficult was it to actually break into the private sector of training? Like you tried, you failed, you kind of came back to it. How hard was it to break through and finally, like how does it feel to obviously you're still growing, but you've had success and you've had professional athletes and you've had combines. Like, how does that feel to put it in perspective to say, here's how far I've come. I've broken into the private sector. Obviously, you have goals and aspirations of keep progressing forward and becoming a strength coach in a professional team as well. But
sure.
how's it feel to get to where you are today?
I feel like I'm not even close to where I want to be, and I think that's always my motivating and my driving force. I think there's certain goals that I have for myself and for the gym that we wanted to accomplish in 2 years, and I don't think we accomplished them. We had a lot of success, and I think I have to be more conscious of enjoying the process a little bit more. But right now, my mindset's always on elevating. How can I elevate my programming? How can I elevate my training? How can we elevate our gym? How can I make sure my athletes keep elevating? And everything's just a constant step of, okay, like, celebrate the little wins. It does feel good to know that I was able to do it, especially all the the tasks and trials and tribulations that I've been through. But it's like, take a little win, celebrate that. On the year anniversary that we opened, I kind of celebrated then. 2-year anniversary this year, I'll kind of celebrate then. But then I'm like, okay, head to the ground. Like, where are we going? Where are we doing there? Like, I know where we're going to go and how we're going to get there. We just got to keep chipping away. Just keep chipping away. Keep chipping away.
And where do you see CTP 5 years from now?
We're going to be in a much bigger facility. I see us being able to tackle, big NFL clientele. I see us being able to program and consulting with NFL teams. I see 20 trainers on staff, us being able to also train all sports across the board. We're in a 2,000 square foot facility now. In 5 years from now, I can see us in a 10,000 square foot facility with a field connected to the back and kind of just keep building this thing. And, I have big aspirations and goals for where I want it to be and how I want it to look. And I think as long as we just keep putting great work and great training and, our trainers keep elevating and I keep elevating as far as the training goes, and we keep being on that, that front foot of technology, and we keep applying that stuff, and, we keep pushing the limits as far as how much performance can we get out of an athlete, I think we'll get there without a doubt.
Yeah, and it seems like you're well on your way towards that path of getting that 10,000 square foot facility.
Yeah, it's coming.
It's coming. As we start to wrap up here, one question that I generally ask most people that I have on the show is, obviously you've gone through a lot in your journey, but would you change anything about the journey? And also, what would you tell your younger self that you now know today?
I wouldn't change a thing about my journey, honestly. I would go through all the trials and tribulations all over again. A lot of the stuff, because it just wasn't from a professional standpoint. It was financial standpoint. It was personal standpoint. I had to make a lot of growth. And I think all this growth doesn't happen, without going through that stuff. I was forced to have growth at a time where, I really didn't feel like I needed it. And you kind of need that kick in the ass a little bit. Like, hey man, humble yourself a little bit. You're not where you want to be. You're not all this, you're not all that. Like, you can always get better. And it kind of just that piece of humble pie that I think everybody needs. And that's why I wouldn't change any of that, because financially now I know how to do things a lot better because I was able to learn, because I've been through that training wise. I've written programs that sucked, and like I learned from those, right? And like, being told from a mentor that you look up to, like, hey, your program sucks. Like, and I appreciated that. Like, I was like, okay, like, let me get better. But going through those failures and being asked questions and not knowing the answers to them, that always is what was driving force, and you learn in your failures. I would tell my younger self, keep going. Just keep going. Like, you're going to get there. You're going to be able to train athletes, where at one point at LA Fitness, I didn't think that was even going to be a thing. Just the things that have gotten you to where you're at this point, continue to keep honing those philosophies in, and that work ethic and that grind, and the real philosophies and the things that I truly believe in as a person and as a man. Keep attacking those things and treat everybody the right way. Keep doing this out of passion. Don't do it for money. Don't do it for anything else. There's no ego that has to be here. Like, keep learning as a sponge, and just keep tackling every day. Every day is a new day. Whether you had a bad day the day before, you wake up and you got to have a better attitude the next one to make it a better day. So that's what I would tell my younger self at this point.
Yeah, and I think all those different hardships that you encountered over the years kind of gave you perspective, and now allow you to be who you are today, and kind of help keep your vision in perspective of what you believe it can be and believe what's attainable. And really for you, there's nothing that's not attainable, because hearing your backstory to get to where you are today is more than most people would get in, twice or three times the amount of time in which you've done it. So it's really hats off to you. And then secondly to that is just being honest with yourself. So you've said, you kind of realize that some of your programs, they haven't been that great. And being able to accept that is the first step in creating positive change. So honesty with yourself creates positive change for you, which in effect helps you grow, but also helps your athletes grow. So it's kind of all of a chain reaction, and it all starts with you at the top.
Across the board, we ask our athletes to have self-awareness of who they are as players and how they like to train and do that. And we keep them accountable. Do we keep ourselves accountable? Right? Like, do I as a trainer, am I keeping myself accountable? Am I making sure that, every day when I go in and I'm about to train someone, am I giving the best that I can be? Did I learn from my mistakes from the past? Did you mature as a trainer? Are you maturing as a trainer? Are you growing? Are you learning? And keeping that as yourself, right? Like, that's a non-negotiable with yourself. Like, I look at myself in the mirror and know, okay, every day I'm going to get a little bit better, no matter what that is, or the hardships that I'm going through, or how, and it can't just be training. It has to be running a business, making sure personal training clients are right, making sure my trainers are good, making sure everything is there, right? Like, so there's a lot more responsibility, but it starts with yourself. You gotta have self-awareness of yourself. You gotta have, you gotta hold yourself accountable to what you believe in, and, not fold when things get bad, or, you get told you suck at something like I did with programming and training, and, you gotta take that on the chin, man. You can't have a soft heart to it. You got to take it on the chin and understand it's an opportunity to get better, and you're either going to fold from it or you're going to rise from it. So you got one or two choices.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like you've kind of risen to the occasion on multiple different, occasions.
Yeah.
But it was great to have you on once again.
Man, it was a good time.
Anthony Tumbarello, CTP Performance. We're excited to see where you guys go from here. We'll be keeping a close eye on you. And as we do with all our podcast episodes, we'll be making sure to kind of cue our listeners in on anything that you have with Combine and upcoming events.
Oh, yeah.
But great to have you on. Appreciate you cutting out the time, and we're excited to see where you go from here.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. And I really like where you guys are going, and I'm excited to be a part of it. I appreciate to be a part of it. I thank you for letting me on here. Anytime you get to share your story and stuff like that, I feel it's a great honor, and I appreciate you guys being able to do that. So looking forward to it.
Thanks, Anthony. Really appreciate it.
All right.